Albuquerque's crime problem is well documented and something we talk a lot about here on New Mexico in Focus, but one of the often overlooked aspects of crime is teen violence. Albuquerque routinely ranks as one of the most dangerous cities in America for teens and young people. Southwest Organizing Project and Working Classroom are teaming up to tackle the issue head on. And it starts with raising awareness. That's the goal of a new documentary by filmmaker John Acosta called Growing Up in the Real Breaking Bad.
Soy Olivia Saucedo. Mi hijo se llamaba Erasmo Muñoz. Tenía 20 años. El día 30 de junio del 2019 le arrebataron a mi hijo su vida. Ese día mi hijo estaba en una fiesta con amigos y mi hijo Erasmo discutió con un muchacho y otro muchacho amigo de él con el que discutió le arrebató su vida, o sea, le disparó más de 5 veces. Cuando me avisaron, pues sentí que me moría. Desde entonces no siento como que si estuviera muerta en vida. Es muy difícil. Erasmo era hijo muy buena gente, platicábamos. Él quería mucho a sus hermanas, a sus sobrinos, que se crean como sus hermanos también. Él los quería mucho. Jugaba con ellos.
In a city like New Mexico, you feel that. You're like Albuquerque, I mean, you feel that. You know, you're not 6 degrees separated in Albuquerque, you're 2 or 3 degrees separated in Albuquerque. Every time we lose a young person in Albuquerque, it's devastating for the school communities, for the community organizations, for the families, obviously, for the communities that surround those folks, whether it's through churches or whatever. And if the way that it manifests itself, you know, in these very like horrifically violent acts that are acted out on our young folks, you know, predominantly our young folks are like on the front lines of dealing with all this stuff right now. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
John Acosta joins us now in studio to talk about the film and how he hopes it can spark a community discussion on how to address the problem of teen violence. With him are young people who are helping to lead the way, starting with Janelle Astorga Ramos. And Adrian Baca is with us. Thank you, Adrian, for coming. Appreciate that. And Chewy Soto's also here. Chewy, thanks for coming in, too. John, let me start with you. The film is a powerful tool to bring attention to the issue of teen violence. Why did you want to make it? And especially, who was this film geared towards?
So, Gene, I'm just sick and tired of all the violence that is affecting our youth. And honestly, I'm just tired of all the BS politics that are not helping our youth, right? And that's the reason for the film. And honestly, that's who it's tailored to.
Understanding, get people to understand what the situation is here.
And to talk about it, right? Because we don't even talk about it. And we always put it to the wayside when it's something that should be on the forefront because our young people are being murdered. And so I want to focus on the violence and not just one side of the violence, right? Because when we talk about violence, we always talk about, we always, you know, turn it into this philosophical debate of good and bad, right? For me, it's like, this violence is happening, whether you're the perpetrator or you're the victim. How do we fix it?
It affects everyone community-wide, doesn't it, eventually at some point?
Yes,
Yeah.
it affects all New Mexicans.
Exactly right.
But we're seeing it more in communities of brown and black indigenous folks, right? And when we have these deaths, sure they're brought up in the media, but for me it's like, for example, like this last death of Sean Marquis, why was that propelled much higher than other brown and black youth who have been murdered, right?
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Why a documentary? I'm curious. It's a particular art form. You're a filmmaker. You're an artist. Was that the best route you saw to get people to understand the situation? Was a documentary?
I think it's just a catalyst,
Okay.
right? And then, like you said, right, it is a tool
Yeah.
that will just ignites people organically into discussion. Because when we talk about these issues, in a forced way, we tend to kind of retreat, right? So for me, I think that's the power of the documentary. That's the power of storytelling, right? And narratives that involve brown, black, indigenous, young people at the forefront of those stories, right? And that's super important to me. And we also need more of that, right?
Yep. Let me bring in some of the other guys that are here with us as well. Janelle, let me speak with you. So often as we talk about violence here in the city at this table for this show, for our broadcast, when it comes up with teen violence, the conversation always ends up being very narrow. Almost like the teens themselves are at fault all the time for everything. Do you ever get that sense when you watch the news as well?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. What's your answer to something like that? The imagery being put out there about teenagers here in Albuquerque.
I think it's something that a lot of people don't realize, that the media and a lot of older generations always blame the youth, and they do it unintentionally sometimes. And like we said, when we're talking about youth violence, it's always, well, these young people don't know what they're doing, they don't care about school, they don't do this, they don't do that. When in reality, we don't have the resources to better our lives. The education system is failing us at a very high rate, and the lack of resources for after-school programs, for buses, for funding youth and youth programs, investing in young people is one of the big reasons why we're failing our young people. So it's not that youth are doing anything wrong, it's that there's lack of resources for them to do something better.
Right, exactly right. Adrian, let me swing to you on that very same topic about resources and stuff to do. Sometimes it seems very simple. Old timers like me and people older than me always say like, well, these kids, they should just be doing all these other things. That's easy to say when there's not a lot to do. What do you say back to older people who say, well, teenagers just need to be doing something out there? Do you have an answer for those folks?
I feel that nobody really has an answer for this, because across the board, we don't really have any, I wouldn't say, I don't even know if resource is the word, but I would say we don't really have any role models, or we don't have many mentors that are able to actually teach the youth, this is the direction you should go, this is what you need to be doing. Instead, we have a lot of violence that's praised inside of culture, like media culture, music, movies. So when the kids see this, the youth, and they fulfill that, they want to be praised for doing this, then they're ultimately rewarded through, praise. And there's no exit, there's no way of getting away from that. So it's more of a question of what we need to be able to help these people to set them on the, correct or right path.
Chewy, there was an article in the Journal a little bit ago. They're doing a series about teen violence here in Albuquerque, and one of the quotes from one of the kids they spoke to said, "Once you're in in the life. You can't just walk away and then just go back to school and everything's just where it was before." So the question is keeping kids from getting in the life in the first place. Touch on that if you would. If you want to pick up on what these guys said too, please feel free. But is that part of the problem here? Resources before that time happens?
I would say once you're in, you're in. I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah.
Because being someone who was in, like, of course, I still like talk to those people. Those people were my friends at that moment. But luckily, I was able to tell them, like, hey, like, I know what we did and I know what I've done, but I know that's not what I want to do anymore. And luckily, they had their respect, because it was all about respect. So they respected my decision to not go on that path. So it's all about who you're around. So, like, if you're with people who just don't care, then of course they're gonna be like, well, bro, if you're doing this with us, like, it's a liability.
Right.
So that's why people might say, once you're in, because if you're out, you're a liability to speak on some of the things you've done.
That's right.
So that's why.
Did you have an avenue to that step to not get in all the way or be able to get out? Did you have places that you could go to, mentors, others that you could lean on a little bit in that transition?
I had people there, but the problem was that I was living a dual life. You know what I mean? I would go and I would, you know, be and like talk to people and things like that, you know, speak properly. No, I wouldn't say properly, but I would just speak to people and, you know, tell my story. But then I would do all these great things that could help the youth in my community, but then go be the problem in my community. And so I had to really figure out who I wanted to be. And I had a chance, and that's the thing that many youth don't have. They don't have a chance.
That's right.
They don't have an opportunity. No one gives them that.
That's right. That swings right back to your main point, John, everything we just heard from these three young people here, that idea that politics gets in it as well. And then people get demonized and stigmatized, and suddenly you're in this box that you're expected to just walk away from, but you can't. Is that part of the problem here, you know, for kids?
Well, yeah, as a documentary filmmaker, you know, I realize the power of the story, right, and the power of narrative. And this narrative of just, this is the young people's fault. This is the youthful, you know, that they're the ones that are the catalyst, right? It's just absurd to me, you know, and we've outdated that narrative, right? You know, since my time when I went to high school here in Albuquerque, because I was born and raised here. You know, I went to West Mesa High, and I was seeing the same issues back then, and I still see them to this day, and they're even more prevalent now, right? And that narrative, we keep pushing that narrative, and it's just so powerful. And as Adrian, you know, touched on, like, the culture of it, right? We love it. We love seeing the guns. We love seeing the violence, right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, baby. Let's go.
Are we trying to have it both ways in Albuquerque? Is that a problem in your point of view as an artist? Are we walking too fine a line here between what Adrian mentioned about glorifying and you know, the results are not great once you glorify stuff? Is that the problem, part of it?
I feel like in many ways we are.
Yeah.
You know, and we need to take a step back and really get grounded in our community and really, like, have discussions with young people and just people that are affected, because they're the ones that really know what the lifestyle is headed to.
That's right.
Right? But we don't, right? It's all out of assumptions. It's all out of, you know, you were talking about the Albuquerque Journal, and they recently released a piece, too, that was depicting, you know, two young boys, well, that were featured, right, and you saw their mugshot. But in the article itself, it was talking about how the Albuquerque youth are kind of like this grandiose kind of mafia, right?
That's right.
And that, to me, is just crazy, you know? They were comparing it to Uber Eats. $1 billion industry, right? $1 billion industry, Uber Eats, right? And comparing it to, you know, youth in Albuquerque who are, you know, selling drugs, you know, like, there's no comparison, you know? But we love that narrative.
That's right.
We love to make it out to be, you know, this huge, you know, bigger than the Sinaloa cartel, you know? And it's, come on, let's take a step back and let's really realize what's happening and figure this thing out.
Right.
Because that narrative, that single narrative, is so destructive. And I don't think we realize that.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. You know, Janelle, to speak to that, if you would, the idea that sometimes kids, and I was a kid once too, I remember this quite well when I was a teenager, something can seem like the answer. It's like folks that understand you, they're like you, they're peers, they understand your problems. And that's all well and good, and being part of something, I don't want to use the word gang here because that's kind of clouds the issue, but being part of something is important for young people. But if you don't have that, you're going to naturally gravitate towards something that's not quite healthy for you. So how do we get past that for kids? I'm talking about choices here. What do we need to give for kids to have choices in Albuquerque so they don't gravitate that way?
I think like someone here had mentioned, we need more mentorship. A lot of the problems that we see with youth violence and poverty is generational.
Right.
So when we don't have mentorship or somewhere to go or places to where we feel safe,
Right.
then that's when we feel like, well, this is all that there is. So this is all that I'm going to do.
That's right.
So the more that we change that narrative that youth are violent, youth are wrong, and we give them that space to actually talk about what they're going through, talk about the trauma, talk about, whatever they need to get out, instead of
Right.
building it up and then it leading to something else, is the most important thing. So when it comes to those choices, if young people don't have a space to even make those choices, then we're already doing a disservice to the young people.
That's a good point. Chewy, let me ask you, a lot of older, again, keep saying older people, this is part of the problem here. They don't understand the life that kids have to lead right now. They see their own youth and they look at you and say, well, why can't you be like me when I was a kid in the 60s? You know what I mean? We had all these choices out there and all this other stuff. What do you want people to know that the best solution is? Is it, how do we keep recidivism down? How do we keep choices up? What do you want to say to politicians to have them kind of kick in here and do something a little bit more?
I think it's funny when they say, like, well, we didn't live that way. Well, you're not my skin color.
Right.
You didn't grow up in my neighborhood.
That's
you
right.
didn't have my ancestry. In the Constitution, we're still known as brown savages. You know what I mean? That narrative has never been changed. And so for them to say that is just like a very ignorant thing to say. And so I think another big problem is that, like, so what do the kids need? What do the kids need? But when do they ask the kids? You know what I mean? They don't ask.
Right.
I mean, like, and me, I go to meetings and stuff like that, but I'm the only person. Sometimes I'm the only youth there. And that's like, because they're the only one I'll let in. I'm the only one to let in,
Right.
because they don't want anybody there, because they don't want things to change. They like the way things are going because they profit from it. You know what I mean? So like with the detention center, that's a $1 million facility that could be used for something way different, to invest in young people in this community. Like, you want the problem to stop. Ask the young people what they need.
Let's go to the event, because we want to make sure we get this in and make sure folks know what's going on. Go ahead, John, give us the lowdown, where it's happening and what they can expect to see there.
So the event is going to be a screening of the film,
Yeah.
right? And then it's going to be at Working Classroom, and it's Saturday, November 16th. It's from 6 to 7:30, and we're going to have also a panel discussion, right, with young people talking about this issue, right? So, so this is a time where, this is an event that's led by young people, right, for young people, right? Because when we talk about these issues, the experts are young people, right? They've lived that life. We always, get into these topics of, like, who do we ask to solve the problem, right? And it's always like, let's ask Mayor Keller, let's ask,
Right.
whoever,
Right.
whoever's an official, right?
That's right.
And it's like, no, the experts are our young people. So
Yep.
let's listen to them.
Interesting. Adrian, you're a youth organizer as well. And I'm curious how, when you have conversations with other peers your age and maybe a little bit younger as well, what's the reaction? You're trying to get folks to go in another direction here. How does that, what's the conversation like these days?
I would say the conversation goes something like, where they would ask me, how did you start doing this? How do I start doing this? And I feel that my answer a lot of the time is exposure. So where, like Janelle said, where do you turn to find these programs, or where do you find this form of, I would call it prevention, because a lot of the time we're willing to spend a lot of money on treatment when, we try to cure something after the fact,
right.
when there's not really many preventative efforts to stop this before it happens, to engage people while they're still young, elementary, even middle school, before high school, where that's probably the heaviest influence, where you're coming of age and
Right.
you're able to make your own decisions now. So trying to influence my peers to create change, to want to make that change, is really how the conversation goes.
Interesting that you mentioned elementary and around that age. That's where it should start, in
Right.
your view. Interesting point there, yeah. Should we pick up on that as well? Would you agree with that? That's the age to start talking about these things?
Definitely, like, because
Yeah.
6 years old, 7 years old are impressionable years, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so if they learn something other than what they see in their household, because in my household, it was men going to jail and women on drugs, you know what I mean?
Right, by high school, you're already that age.
That's right.
And
you're,
with the education system, they chose my path. You know what I mean? They chose my path, knowing my family, knowing my, like, they would check my attendance, they would check my grades and all of that stuff, and they would know my path, like, oh, this kid's destined for jail. You know what I mean? They chose that already.
Wow, that's powerful, just even hearing that. That's a tough one. Pick up on something Adrian mentioned there, too, working with kids. What do you want civic leaders to know, John, about how to work with kids at a certain age? As Adrian mentioned, a little bit younger than we perceive. Middle teens is one thing, but a little bit younger. That's an art and a craft. What do you want elected folks to know about how to do that?
Yeah, no, I think it's just funding, just investment. Again, going back into investment.
Sure.
And then just funding those programs. Starting
Right.
starting in middle school, but also like high school, right? Programs that are in high school, because a lot of the programs, for example, I also work at Working Classroom.
Oh, yeah.
Right, a nonprofit that is a youth art center that focuses on a lot of issues, right, impacting our young folks. And the thing that I've noticed the most is that there are programs, and then there are elementary school programs, arts based, but a lot of them kind of fizzle out during middle school years. So we need more of that, more funding towards middle school and high school as well, right? That open up spaces and that activate spaces for young people to really have critical discussions about their lives, right? Because whenever we talk about our lives, it's hard to put ourselves in the situation. We always look at it through this like magnifying glass, right? Or like this popular word that I typically hate is like the other, right? And it's like, no, it's not the other. It's the us.
That's right.
Like, we're living this.
Yep.
So like, how do we even talk about our lives? Because that's a hard thing to do, right?
Very much
literacy in our own lives.
Yeah, I have to congratulate you all, though, and John Acosta, you especially. It's a very powerful doc. It really is. It's really. I wasn't quite prepared for how powerful it was. Honestly, I really didn't know I was going to be watching. I was like, whoa! Once I got into it, but I have to say congratulations. And the event again is coming up on November 16th at 6 at Working Classroom, and we hope to be all there. Janelle Astorga Ramos, thank you for your input as well. We appreciate your work on this. Adrian Baca, of course, and Chuy Soto, thank you guys as well, and appreciate your work you're doing with young people out there. Don't stop. That's the one I'm going to ask you right here. Don't stop. Keep doing this. This is important. You guys are what's going to turn Albuquerque around, not elected people, not policy people.
Exactly.
It's folks like right here at this table. This is how change happens.
Thank you so
guys
much,
very
Steve.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.